So Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Kitshanu B'Mitzvotav V'Tzivanu La'asok B'Divrei Torah. Praised are you, O Lord our God, creator of the universe, who commanded us to study and immerse ourselves in the words of Torah. Okay, so we're going to go around. We're going to say what our name is, and we're going to say one thing that is like a miracle in my life. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit about Nace. You think of Hanukkah being a holiday of miracles, Pesach too. Quite a few miracles. Okay, so a miracle in my life. I am
Harvey Wasserman.
And Harvey's miracle is?
About 2 weeks ago, I became engaged.
Oh.
Azalto.
Okay, two.
Her name is Mindy.
Okay, Harvey and Mindy, and the wedding will be on?
No idea. It took us 5 years to get to this point.
Okay.
Please give us a chance.
Okay, so what was it specifically something about Shir Hashirim which got the juices of romance flowing? Thank you, sir.
It's just that we've always gotten along very well. And hard to believe, but after 5 years, we have never had an out and out argument about anything.
Wow. Now, they'll get married, and now you'll see what will happen. Okay, you heard it here first. Okay. No, because now you have something to fight about. You know, before it was all good, you know. We are of course teasing you.
I know.
And you've been married before?
Yes.
And
I'm widowed.
it should be only beautiful and fulfilling, and it should be a blessing, and also for your families as well.
Yeah.
This should be very special. Harvey just got engaged, so to Mindy. We also asked him a few personal details like, have they ever had a fight before, and when was the wedding, and he didn't disclose anything. He kept it all shush still. Okay. Okay, so we're going around to introduce ourselves. Sheila, you wanna go next, please?
Sheila Hackman.
And what's a miracle, Rabbi, in your life? A miracle, something that you're cognizant of at this time. Okay, we take it one day at a time. So we wake up, we say Moda Ani, thank you for putting the soul back inside of me. Okay. Okay, Sheila lived to another day.
Michael Lowenstein, don't have any miracles of note.
Okay, so pick one out from history then. It's Pesach. This can't be difficult.
That we were free and we are still a people today.
Oh, so this was the turning point of our nation, coming out as slaves into an into a nation. And where are the Romans? Where are the Assyrians? Where are the Babylonians, right? So, okay. So Dayenu would have been enough if we were just alive. And then what else happened? Please.
I'm Marlene Weinstein, and my miracle is my family.
Oh, Marlene has a beautiful family. So tell us about your family.
This is my husband,
Okay,
and we have 3 kids:
lovely. And their names are?
Victor, Nathan, and Sarah.
Victor, Nathan, and Sarah are Marlene's miracle. James?
I'm James Newman. My miracle is that I'm with Marlene.
Oh, more stories of love.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about love this morning. Maybe love and miracles. Please, we'll have time for 2 classes. Yes.
Bill Satin, I don't hold much for either historical or present day miracle.
Okay. So what would you consider to be a miracle, Bill? Because you're clearly redefining the term on me all of a sudden.
Well, you didn't define it originally, so I can't redefine something.
Okay. Okay. So what is your definition of a miracle?
An unexplained occurrence that we attribute an explanation to that is beyond logic.
Okay, so Bill holds by Rambam. Okay, and here's what Rambam, Moses Maimonides, here's what Moses Maimonides would have to, okay, so Rambam, okay, 1700s, he was the court doctor for basically the king of Egypt. Okay, this is the modern king of Egypt, not the ancient pharaoh. And Rambam would say a miracle is not something that goes against the order of nature. Okay, so how can you explain Rambam, the splitting of the Red Sea, right? So Rambam would say, this is a little digression, but we are getting to y'all. Rambam would say, okay, so you said there was an east wind and it was blowing, maybe at the spot where the rivers met the sea, maybe at the spot where it was a little bit shallower and there were some sandbanks, the waters piled up. And then as the water slowly came back, first the sandbank turned to quicksand and the Egyptian, wheels of the chariots locked. And then the water came flowing back and they were stuck there. He said, well, we just don't understand how this could have happened. And so it wasn't exactly a miracle against nature, okay? And as proof to this, Rambam would say, take a small child. Take Jackie's children, okay? So they come from one egg, right? So how is it possible that all of their traits, how tall they are, the color of their hair, how they're going to be able to learn, how is it all these traits come from one little egg, one little sperm? That amount of genetic material has this entire code? He said, look, we can't understand it. So you could say that that's a miracle. He said, I would tell you, as a doctor, there's a reason for it. It exceeds our scientific understanding at this point, but one day we will understand how that happens, right? So that's Rambam saying, what you think is a miracle, we just don't understand enough yet. Does that agree with you, Bill?
Well, that's not just Rambam, many people, I mean, you pick the Jewish representation of Aristotelian logic. So
Okay,
well,
well,
that's not an unreasonable explanation.
Ron, who are you and what's a miracle?
You just told me.
Okay,
Ron.
and Ron Persky's miracle is?
I think about how the entire world, universe, solar system all works and how it all meshes together and makes sense. The fact that it makes sense, it isn't what's the words at the beginning of the Torah before creation? It's not a mess.
Tohu vavohu.
Yeah, that. It's not that.
Void and chaos.
That's the miracle.
So when you see like a quasar, a pulsar, sending off beams at a regular interval, out of the faraway constellations, and then you realize, oh wait, those are actually distant galaxies. They're not even in our galaxy. That already is a sign of God's hand, and that's.
I didn't say anything about God.
Okay, that's a miracle. So we don't understand. So would you? Maybe we don't understand. Is it forever contracting? Is the universe continuing to expand?
Who knows?
Dark matter.
But
Astrophysics.
who knows? But it's all part of how it's supposed to work.
Okay. So it's the clockwork nature of the universe is a miracle?
Yeah, I mean.
Maybe God had nothing
I
to
mean,
do with it?
in a smaller sense, it's this animal eats that animal, or this animal eats that plant, or this plant doesn't survive without that plant, et cetera.
Symbiotic relationship.
Mhm.
Okay.
My mother suffered an aneurysm months ago. And,
Sorry.
so we were saying goodbye to her and then
Mm.
doctor said it could be any given day. Now a month later, she's still here.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
So
a miracle.
is she in the
She's
hospital
still
or?
in the hospital, she hasn't been released, she still hasn't really fully wake up, not conscious. So when I call her
Mhm.
on the video chat, I say, Mom, it's me, I'm calling you.
Yes.
And she just like,
Ah.
just had all the masks like this.
Yes.
Like that.
So she wants to talk.
In the United States? In China.
wow.
Doing the video chat, yes. She does some visual things and I think, I hope that means that's me.
Yes.
That's my miracle.
Wow.
No,
They have it on the,
call, I'm on a video. The video call, I'm on a video.
but they could maybe hold the screen up to her mom so her mom could see her.
At least she can hear my voice.
It's good.
Mhm.
I'd say my kids.
Very similar. And their names are? Okay, yes. So, okay, so we have lots of miracles. Yes. Oh, okay. All right, so my miracle, so I'm Shalom, or some people call me Shalom at home.
No,
Which-
Evan just walked in.
Ivan, please, your miracle?
You forgot this.
So many. Well. I think. So many.
Ivan's overwhelmed by so many miracles. Hard to choose one.
I can think of one now. We were in Peru. And we were on this boat ride on a lake called Lake Titicaca.
well-named
I've
place.
heard of that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Lots of jokes on that
the coldest and deepest lake in the
Mm.
world.
Okay,
We're on this boat.
Yes.
It's like, 25 by 50 or something,
Yeah.
very small.
Yeah.
No life preservers, nothing.
Yeah.
And we left, we were heading for this island. It was like, like a 2-hour ride. It was beautiful, it was sunny and everything, but all of a sudden, the storms came.
Yeah.
The skies darkened. And
right.
torrential rains and winds, and the boat was like going
Mhm.
this, like that, like
Right.
this. I swore this was the end. This was gonna be the end,
Mhm.
Custard King dies on Lake Titicaca.
Mhm. Right.
Promotion.
The ice cream's going down with me.
Anyway, so close to turning over, and everyone was silent, on an airplane.
When it
When it gets bad, people first start talking, but when it remains that way, there's total silence. This is what that was like. Everyone in that boat thought that was the end. And then suddenly the wind stopped and it was fine. Cover. I didn't want to go back on this boat either. I tried to find a flight back. There were no flights. We had to go back on the same boat, but it was fine. But
Did you suggest to them that they should get life preserver?
Right, yeah, but this, third world country, I mean, it was, it's the hazards you confront when you travel.
They didn't advocate pushing some people overboard.
I don't know.
Like who is running away from God,
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, so let's go to our friends on the Zoom. Who you are, what might be a miracle that you recognize?
Nelson Pole in Florida. Every Shabbos, Ivan comes up on the screen and in person. So I think of Ivan as split, but I know it's his wife behind that name. It's kind of
The
like a
fact
miracle.
that Ivan has cloned himself.
That's American.
I was going to say that I have a son who's been struggling, and it's like an asymptotic relationship in mathematics. It gets closer and closer and closer, but it never gets there. It seems to have gotten there. It's just wonderful. In the last week, he made an announcement. He's really made a change. And there's Ivan's wife.
Sharon?
I took a walk around my neighborhood today in Silver Spring, and I just was looking at the leaves coming out, the buds and the leaves coming out, and the azaleas and the lilacs, and and the birds and the dogs who come up to greet me, and that's a miracle.
Oh, so it's like the Cherry Blossom Festival come from Silver Spring. But by the way, we're a few weeks behind you here, but the blossoms are just starting to bloom here now.
Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering if there were cherry trees planted in Northeast Ohio. So I'm glad to know that there
Not
are.
as many, but there are a few. I have one in my yard because I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, so I put one in my yard.
Okay. And I also wanted to second what Marlene said about Jackie Friedman. Such a lovely, special, talented, brilliant lady, and so kind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes.
Thanks, Shira.
Yeah.
Call on some other people, please. Huh? Call on some other people for me, please.
I don't know who you already told. All that.
Somebody else want to share?
Jackie.
Jackie?
Okay, I'll share. I think of every day as a miracle, that I'm alive and that I'm healthy and that I can participate fully in life and be with my family and my children And I'm just grateful every day.
Beautiful. Every day. Jackie, please.
Just a few days ago, I fell in a dog walking related accident and I broke my shoulder. And it's a miracle that it was not my skull.
Boy,
Yes.
wow.
Completely.
Okay. Broad shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're glad that you're with us and able to study Torah despite the shoulder.
Thank you.
Okay, did I miss anybody else? Okay, so this was a little miracle from last month, and Sheila already alluded to it. In this room, we had a celebration. Okay, so right here in the Torah study area, so my daughter, Hannah, who, you know, grew up in the youth group here in the area, became the president of USY and the regional president, the international president, very proud, lots of nachas. So she married her vice president. So this was a young man that she met.
Vice president or the national?
No, international. She met him originally through Ramah, which is a series of camps. And they had what they call pilgrimage, which is they go from America to Poland. They see the death camps. They go to Jerusalem. You know, they celebrate, you know, the life of our people again. And she saw him at, she hates when I tell the story. She saw him, from what I understand, at Newark Airport. And she said, why is this young man different from all the other young men? Because he was davening and putting on tefillin and meditating and studying Torah. The other ones were all on their phones. You know, they were talking to each other. They were texting and doing whatever they do on their phones. And she said, oh, this one seems to be very spiritual. And so while they were being given a tour at Auschwitz of the death camps, he was very emotionally overwrought and overcome. She was as well. They bonded. And she said, you know, I think I'd, you know, like to, you know, get to know you better. They had some pretty deep conversations. Turns out she discovered that his family is originally from Cleveland, but he is from Florida. Okay, his father is Rabbi David Wiseman or Weitzman. It's Wiseman without the T. Some people still pronounce. So his father's brother still lives here in this neighborhood. They were part of this temple of B'nai Yeshurun or Heights Temple or whatever. And so when it came time, fast forward, so they did get engaged. They actually got COVID together at Auschwitz with everybody else on the bus. They were quarantined at the Goldstein Youth Village in Jerusalem for 10 days together. You know, they had some special times under a tree. So when they got engaged, they have pictures of them in the same spot in the Goldstein Youth Village. Very lovely. So anyway, so we're planning this wedding. And Xander's parents say to us, we would like to participate. We said, we'll participate in any way that you would like. I mean, do whatever you want. We're throwing the wedding at Cleveland, so however you would like to share. And they said, well, we would like to invite, you know, some members of our congregation because they're both pulpit rabbis in Florida, Clearwater near Tampa. And yeah, invite whoever you want. You know, just, you know, it's a simcha. You know, don't hold back. It's, well, we're inviting all these people. You won't know them. You'll never see them again. But there are mishpacha. They're part of our synagogue in Clearwater. We'd like to have a dinner ahead of time, like a rehearsal dinner. There was no rehearsing going on. It's just a chance to celebrate getting to the miracle. So the rehearsal dinner. So, oh, it's Purim. So they're working, you know, they're celebrating. Xander doesn't want to see Hannah for a week. So he's in Florida with his parents. A week.
For the wedding.
Before the wedding. So they want to see a day.
No.
Okay, so they're very traditional. They love all of the festivities, all of the yes. Everything. They love it all. So I said to them, well, you got to be here in person to get this marriage license. Super important. I said, you have to be married in America by the law. It's not just enough that your parents are all rabbis. I'm a rabbi. His parents are both rabbis. So they flew in, they signed, you know, they went to the courthouse, the probate court. He flew down to Florida. So the whole family's supposed to come back after Purim, okay? So it's Sunday. Purim was advanced to Thursday, right? You don't celebrate Purim on Shabbos. And it turns out their rabbi, who they want to fly in from his yeshiva, from Oraitza in Jerusalem, has no trouble getting here. You know, and in Jerusalem, it's an extra day of Purim. Why?
Shushan Purim.
Shushan was a ancient walled city. So their Purim is actually pushed It's not exactly an extra day of Purim, they just celebrate Purim like a day later, but because Shabbat came in between, their Purim became Saturday night and Sunday. He missed the second part of Purim, the day of the Seudah, to fly here to our wedding. He gets here no problem. What happens to the whole family from Clearwater? The groom, the parents of the groom, the sisters, the brother of the groom and his girlfriend, all the congregants, what happens? They couldn't get here, right? Because Florida is known for weather, unlike Cleveland, right? And there were these tornadoes, and we said, just start driving. You know, they have this big minivan, they have a family of 4 kids, kind of, you know, get in the car. And they said, we can't. The roads are cut by flooding caused by these tornadoes, the storms that spawn the. We said, what are you gonna do? So they're sitting at the airport literally for a day and a half. Each flight gets canceled. Finally, one takes off. But meantime, we're here celebrating. So everybody, all of their family that's from Cleveland, this is the rehearsal dinner. So all the people who they invited, I knew a few of the people because they actually invited a few of our relatives, but this whole room was full up of the Weissman family's friends and family, and the Weissmans were not here. And my wife and my daughter, the one who was getting married, they were like crying. They were going out. Some of our guests were sitting here on that ledge over by the red poppies, and they were making calls. I could get you maybe this flight. You could take a train from here. You could, you know, they were trying to be like travel agents. Everybody was trying to solve this problem. I said, you know what? We're gonna pray for a miracle. And there was plenty of wine. There was lots of hamantashen left over from Purim. We had all kinds of fun. We were singing. We were literally it wasn't the wedding yet. We were singing, dancing. This whole place was rocking. And we stopped and we made a prayer they should get here. And what happened?
They got here.
They got here. So in the morning we had plans. So they're traditional. They want to go to the minyan. Okay. Anybody know where there's a minyan around here? Okay. They want to go to the mikvah. Anybody know if there's a mikvah around here? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had all these plans. They wanted to go for kosher bagel. Is there a kosher bagel place around here? All of these things are possible in Cleveland, right? Maybe not where he's from in I don't know, Clearwater. Who not sure about the beach in in the south. But anyway, all these things happened without them. Finally, they got here in the middle of the day. He did all of his davening. He was fasting that day too, by the way. And so they got to the chuppah. Actually, Rabbi Hal was with us, and he said, you know, this is freilich. And then he goes, no, even more. This is Lebedik. I mean, this is before like the groom. We didn't actually have groomsmen because it was just a Jewish wedding. So we didn't but they were like doing backflips off the table, and they were just the flowers, and it was lovely. They shutting the lights down. The caterers had all pulled out. They were taking down the decorations. Everybody was still dancing and singing. They turned the lights back on. I paid the band an extra hour. Paid them an extra hour. Come on, guys, don't leave us. Eventually, they left anyway. It was fun. So that was my miracle. So who can tell me something about love that comes from Shir HaShirim? Who can tell me something about love that comes from the newlywed here? Okay, we have a newly engaged gentleman here with us. So can somebody tell me something about love that they learn about from our holy scriptures?
Dodi li.
Dodi li va'ani lo haroeh b'shoshanim. So that's like a traditional setting for Dodi li. Except when you sing it at a really freilich wedding, it goes like this: Dodi li va'ani li ba'roeh. They just it's so excited. Okay, so what does that mean in English? I am
My beloved.
my beloved's, and my beloved is mine, right? Sometimes you might see it even inscribed inside a wedding band or something like this.
It's
Okay.
better to have the date, so.
Put the date on there so you don't forget when the anniversary is. Good idea. Yes.
I may,
What is it?
And has it?
yeah.
Oh, your wedding ring also. Okay, beautiful. Anybody else have something we learned from Shir HaShirim?
That it's okay to love.
Right. Romantic love, sex, having families, having children. This is all beautiful, right? There are some religions that would tend to put down, human nature, desire to procreate, whatever. No, Judaism says let's lift it up within boundaries. Okay, right. So in this case, it's love between a male and a female, They're out perhaps Bashoshanim, out within the roses.
Is God mentioned in that?
So it's supposedly an allegory between Hashem and the children of Israel. Or if you study it in Catholicism, it would be between Jesus or whatever. But this is, I'm gonna claim our book for ourselves, right? So yes, so God isn't specifically so much in Shir HaShirim, but I guess you could say he's pervades the whole book. Kind of like the Haggadah, where it's kind of, Moses is everywhere in it, but isn't specifically mentioned that much. Okay.
Mentioned once.
Once, okay, yeah. Okay, other thoughts from Shir HaShirim?
Something like running like a gazelle or something.
Oh my goodness, right. So, there's so much beautiful, I guess you could call it poetry, allegory, metaphor. So what is the gazelle or the hind? It's leaping, it's swift,
Yeah.
it's jumping, it's sure-footed. It's just full of exuberance and energy, like young love. Okay. Any other?
It's the fact that it just could exist on two levels. It doesn't have to be the allegory or of earthly sensual love. It's both.
Beautiful. Okay. So love can be on different levels simultaneously. Okay. And the song, the shir, the poet, also wrote on multiple levels. Other thoughts? So why am I talking about Shir HaShirim today?
Because we're gonna read it.
We're gonna read.
Oh, that's true. What else do we read today, my friends? What
Song
else?
of the Sea.
What? Oh, there's another shir, another song. So what's another song that we sing today? Okay, what am I singing?
Miriam and
Miriam and the women danced. Right.
Yeah, but that's the second song.
Oh, two songs, even better. More singing, more dancing. Okay. So we're going to sing, we're going to look a little bit inside of the Torah. We'll look inside of Beshalach. We'll look inside of Exodus, which is on page 399, is Beshalach. But I'm going to start a little bit with the seventh day of Pesach. So this is not considered its own holiday, right? So like on Sukkot, what would you consider the seventh day? Shmini Atzeret, is that its own holiday? It is.
It is.
This one is not. So do we say Shehechianu on the Kiddush? Oh, we do not. Okay, it's not its own holiday. This is a continuation. Okay, and why is this one special? Because of this miracle of the song of the sea being sung. Okay, but there is a dissonance because God's creatures are also destroyed. We're dipping out from our full cup of blessing and wine at the Seder because
It's why
Pharaoh and his charioteers, his picked armed officers, go down into the Red Sea, into the waters, and they're drowned. The bodies are washing up on the shore.
And it's for that reason we only do half the Hallel.
Patsy, half of a, so a few psalms less of.
I don't know which half.
I mean, that God said to the heavenly chorus, "What now? You're gonna sing when my creatures are drowning?" No. So this is the seventh day of Pesach. So we're reminded of the Yetziat Mitzrayim. We're reminded of the Exodus, because what took place specifically today?
Crossing the sea.
The sea split. Okay, that was today. Okay, and if we go back to those days, what happened in Moshe's life? For 7 days, God called out to him through a bush that was not consumed. It wasn't burned. V'hasna enenu kol. That's like a symbol from the Jewish Theological Seminary where I studied. Yes. So these same 7 days, right?
Does it say that somewhere, or is that midrash?
This is midrash, right? So this is what's going on. This is from the Mechilta, so the midrash on Exodus. So this is what's going on at this time, the dividing of the sea, right? Anything else that's going on at this time? Okay, so here's how it kind of happened, right? Moses had said to Pharaoh, we want to go 3 days to go worship God. And at one point, after the 10th plague, Makat Bechorot, when all the firstborn of Egypt, from the king's own prince to people in the prisons and also the house, when all the firstborns of Egypt were dead, Pharaoh's courtier said, how long will this people be a snare unto us? Okay, I'm quoting, I'm trying to sound biblical, right? Get rid of them. Now I'm trying not to be biblical. And Pharaoh said, out you go, and he said, never come to me again. Moses said, oh no, I'm never gonna see you again. We're out. Who is going with you? Right. We're gonna go with our young, with our children. We're taking our flocks too. Before you said you can't take no, we're taking everybody and our animals. 3 days.
And everything the neighbors gave us.
So do you think Pharaoh sent like some spies and messengers along with the Israelites as they were pulling out? Do you think he sent maybe, I don't know, some offsop soup, some mixed rabble out? Who else came out with the Israelites?
The riffraff, I forget
That's
what,
what I always call them.
I don't know who went, but a whole bunch of people left Egypt, right?
but that's in Hebrew. What is that in Hebrew? The
Offsop soup.
Mixed milk or two. Yeah.
Right, right.
But then,
Pharaoh then had his heart, what happened? Hardened, right. And he said, giddy up. He said, saddle up the horses, grab together the army, going after them. What are we gonna let them all free? We're gonna let the people who built Pitom and Ramses, we're gonna let they have strong backs. Get the Israelites back in here. Who's gonna work the fields? Wait a second, what did we just do? Right, and so what does he say? Not so fast, right? You're coming back, right? And so, what do the Israelites? What do they do? They're on the banks of the Reed Sea. Okay, so they went out for 3 days. Actually, they now come back half a day. Basically, Moses is now trying to trick Pharaoh. Okay, we're actually on our way back. So they go from Ramses, they go to Sukkot. Now they're at Pi HaChirot. They're on the banks of the sea. So they're basically stuck. Okay, what's coming down on them? The hordes of Egypt. What's in front of them? The water is so far, you can't even see across it. They're stuck, okay? Who wants to tell me about some miracles that happened on this day?
Nachshon.
Okay, all right, so let's count some miracles. Okay, in this Yetziat Mitzrayim,
specifically for this.
okay, one miracle, so there's a midrash which said it actually wasn't Nachshon who was the first Israelite who jumped into the sea because of his belief. It was actually the Benjaminites, the tribe of Benjamin, right? So there's all different kinds of midrashim, okay? So I didn't know that one. I love midrash. So I was doing, as you know, whenever I teach, I try to bring midrash. So that's why they had the blessing, so that Benjamin would stand like between the shoulders on resting upon God's back. There's Benjamin. He has that place of honor, riding like on his father's right. So and others say no, it was Nachshon from the tribe of Judah, from Yehuda ben Aminadav.
That I did.
And this is why Judah gets these blessings of, first of all, having God's holy temple inside of their domain, their land, their ancestral holding, and also that the scepter, that the rod shall not depart from the hand of Judah, not Benjamin. Benjamin's like a ravenous wolf, but Judah will be the leader, right? And so that's for his zechut, right? That was his zechut. Okay.
Otherwise, we would be Ben's, instead of Jews.
Right. So I'll quote now. Rabbi Judah said to Rabbi Meir, this is the midrash that you're speaking to. It was Nachshon ben Aminadav of Judah, who was the first, and he came into the waters all the way up to his wasn't enough. That it says that the Israelites walked dry shod, right? What does that mean? And when they jumped in, the water was plenty wet. And then only then did the miracle happen. and that the Egyptians came in and the waters covered them back over. Right. So during that time, here's another miracle. This one's from the Midrash. Okay, we're going to get to some more miracles that are in the text specifically from this time. There was a leader named Uzzah, a prince of Egypt, who was an angel. And this angel, this leader of the angels, came to God and said to God, you know what? You're going to let the Egyptians drown? Wait a second here. I'm going to speak up for the Egyptians. Are they not a nation to be proud of? Did they not, do lots of wonderful things? So he came to speak for the Egyptians. And so, quick, here comes the angels. Gabriel sends to the angel Uzziel, says to Raphael. So these other angels come up, these abiding angels. So there's an argument going on in heaven, right? In God's palace. Have you heard any of these midrashim? And they say, you know what? We're going to show you proof that the Egyptians are not such a fine nation. And they hold up babies that were drowned in the Nile, okay? And they hold up infants that were encased in clay, put in the bases of the pyramids, okay? And they said, what is this proof of the infanticide Egyptians? Are you so sure that they're so meritorious? And then comes Samael. Who's Samael? Who?
The devil. Samael.
The devil. Right, the angel, right. And he says, I will argue on behalf of the Egyptians. You thought you just won, but wait. And so there's a midrash on a midrash inside of a midrash that says, well, what happens when you have a whole flock of sheep? Okay, this is an allegory, so God is like the shepherd. You have a whole flock of sheep, and they're being attacked by a lion, like the Egyptian army bearing down upon them. And you can't protect all of the sheep. What do? So the shepherd picks up a big male, like a he-ram, a powerful animal, throws it at the lion and says, here, mix with this one first. And so clearly they have a big tussle. And while they're fighting, then the shepherd can escort the ewes and the baby sheep to safety. And so who does God throw at the devil in order to slow down this advance, to bollocks up this argument against the Israelites and for the Egyptians? Starts at the letter J.
Jesus.
Job, right? I'm going to throw at you somebody who's fully righteous. Have any of you studied the book of Job a little bit? Right? Right? And so there's like a fight there. And so this slows down Samael. And so the Israelites are able to escape from the Egyptians. So what's other miracles at the sea? Am I running out of time?
No.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you, Yingli.
15 minutes.
Okay, so what are some of the other miracles that we see? I'm not talking from the Midrash, from the Torah, from Beshalach, like other miracles at this time. With signs and wonders, God took us out of the land. Think back to, we were just saying the Haggadah twice. I don't know if that was a punishment that we have 2 days of Pesach instead of. Okay, so tell me some other miracles, please. What did the Israelites just see?
Not specific at the sea, you mean like the plagues, for example?
Okay, good. So what's one plague?
Frogs.
What's the miracle there?
Frogs descended.
Right. So you could say, look, frogs aren't miraculous. Everybody has seen a frog before. But to have frogs in that number, where some would say it was actually one giant frog, right? But that's another midrash. But yes, that they come at specifically this time. Yes, that they leave exactly at this time. So it makes a natural occurrence into a miracle. Is it a miracle that there is for example, I don't know, the east wind? No, we have east winds. But what if it comes specifically now and it blows so hard all night that it pushes the water up like a wall? All right, so now I'm going to say that's a miracle because it happened right when we needed it. Okay, so the miracle of the frogs, that they come and they go, at Moses' command because of power of God. Okay,
Another miracle is the Israelites were never touched by any of these.
right. Why didn't the miracles, like, was there darkness in Goshen?
Now,
Right? What happened? Let's say that there was a house that had a little bit of blood on the lintel. So maybe they had dipped some hyssop on it and smeared the house with blood. What would happen? What would not happen in that house?
The firstborn son. would-
No death.
Yeah.
The firstborn son would not be killed by the Malach HaMavis.
Passover.
Right? Exactly. So what's another miracle?
Darkness, blood,
Oh, okay. So
ice.
oh, you get too many. You're going too fast for me. Okay, so darkness. What kind of darkness was it?
Spiritual.
A spiritual darkness? Maybe a darkness that was so thick you couldn't even see through it, like you were just completely blacked out?
Eclipse of the sun.
Okay, and right, such darkness happening exactly at that spot. And for the Israelites, did they have darkness? No, no. If for the Egyptians, it was a darkness so dark that their fires were extinguished. They had no ability to see. Right, it would be like the batteries and the flashlights all went out at the same time, right?
And the Egyptian magicians could not replicate those
Right.
plagues.
Right, like
Only-
could the Egyptian magicians turn their staves into snakes?
They only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any penny pot magician, of course. I can throw down a stick and have it be a snake, right? But what happened to Moses? What happened to Aaron's rod?
It ate the other ones.
It gobbled them up, right? So it wasn't just a snake, it was the snake. Okay. Other miracles. So we talked about the miracle of faith of Nachshon. Okay,
Yeah.
the Israelites were able, even despite their slavery conditions, good. What about from my friends on the computer? Anybody want to mention a miracle of the Exodus, or maybe a miracle from in the early days of the desert, of the wilderness, of the Midbar?
I think it's a miracle when Moses wanted to speak to Pharaoh, he could get to Pharaoh. He wasn't stopped by the courtesans or by guards. He could walk in and just start talking.
Right, so presumably Pharaoh controlled the access to the palace, right? Presumably had, like you say, the imperial guard, right? So why were they letting in Moses and Aaron?
Office hours from 10 to 11.
Yeah, open office hours.
Also,
Okay, so maybe part of it was Moses knew the password on the door to get in. Okay, they knew Moses, they recognized him, but don't forget Moses was also brand a murderer, they could have just killed him when they saw him, right? Moses had struck down the Egyptian taskmaster. Okay, so Moses grew up as a prince of Egypt, so he knew how to talk and what to wear.
We have no proof that the Egyptians knew that.
Okay, they didn't throw it in his face. It never mentions that, right?
No,
Maybe,
the Israelites
maybe he
knew it.
comes back looking like a Midianite shepherd, right? 'Cause that's what he's been for the last 20 years or whatever. Okay,
40 years.
If we could draw a lesson from the Purim story, Esther is worried that if she goes to the king and he doesn't want her, she'll die. He'll kill her.
Correct. Right,
So
he doesn't have to lower his
even
scepter.
if Moses is a member of the court, if the Pharaoh doesn't want to see him, he'll be killed anyway.
Right, yeah, Pharaoh could just say off with his head or throw him back in the dungeon, right? Okay,
It would ruin the story.
maybe it wasn't, maybe that right there, it's a miracle that I didn't even think about. Thank you. What are other miracles? Okay, what is manna?
Later.
some kind of food.
Right, the Israelites said, man who? What is it? Right? Dak mechus pas. So it's described tasting like honey or maybe tasting like seed. So it's this white flaky substance laying on top of the dew that they could go out and collect. What are some miracles of the manna?
There's
There was basic, not.
For me, it tasted like cake. For you, it tasted like matzah. Okay. How much?
portions on Shabbat.
Double, so that if you collected too much, it would go bad. It would be like worms and it would go ransom. If you didn't collect enough, it would last and stretch. You could bake it, you could boil it,
The right amount.
taste it all these different ways, and that there was a double portion on Shabbat. Lechem Mishnah on my Shabbat table this week, last night. I had 2 pieces of
Matzah.
Lechem Mishnah still, right? Still 2 portions, 2 loaves. Okay? Any other miracles about the manna? How about that it only lasted for exactly 40 years of the time of the wandering in the desert? And then it stopped when they got where?
Canaan.
Right, when they came to the Holy Land, they didn't need any more.
Now they had to grow their own food.
Right, correct, they had to work. From the sweat of your brow, you'll bring forth wheat. Okay, what else?
Amalekites.
Oh, okay. So if it wasn't enough to have one army bearing down on us from one side, now here come the desert raiders. The Amalekites, Yamach Shamam, their memory should be obliterated, came to cut down the Israelites from the rear, striking first the women and children. And what did the Amalekites decide to do? Kill them all, right? That was their goal, right? And so Moses said, I'm going to walk up, the weakest, right? I'm going to walk up to the top of this rock, okay? And there, I'm going to raise up my arms. And as his arms went up, what happened?
They succeeded.
The tribes of Israel were able to overcome, but his arms got tired. And so he had 2 helpers named
Hur and Aaron.
Hur and Aaron, and they held up his arms again. And it wasn't Moses who was doing this. What was happening?
Busy fighting.
It was faith. The Israelites would lose faith when Moses' arms dropped. And then when he put up his arms, he was reminding them, it's not me and it's not your strength of arms. It's God who is giving us the power to wage this fight. And when they remembered God, they were victorious. And God said, never forget this. Blot out their memories.
They were doing.
Never forget, blot them out, right?
They were doing the fighting. I mean, they were slowly, they had to become weaned of God's miracles.
Right, who was fighting for them?
Take their own initiative.
Right.
This was the beginning of that.
So this was the beginning, right? I mean, the Israelites said they went out of Egypt, Chamushim. Was that in 5 columns, or does that mean that they left armed? I mean, maybe they might have been expecting some difficulties, but they certainly didn't expect to be, right on the shores of the sea, right there, right after leaving, to be attacked so fast.
Of course, the greatest miracle was that, that sea was a rite of passage, and now they're in the wilderness. And they're free.
So let's talk about Moses for a moment. He's standing on the edge of the Red Sea and he's praying. Okay?
Reed Sea.
The Reed Sea. So there are things. So there are different ways that we can react in times of trouble. Okay? So I'm going to draw to a modern parallel in just a moment. But let's say, what are some ways, if you were standing there between the rock and the wet places, as you were saying, and the hard place. If you were standing there, how would you have reacted?
Before they went over?
God hasn't split the sea yet. How would you have reacted?
This is the end.
Would you have been like Nadab ben Nadab? Nachshon?
Any of them said, why are we here? Why did
Okay,
you bring
so
us
some
here?
people would definitely start being philosophical. Like Ivan, and say, why are we here? What's going on? Okay.
Enough cemeteries in Egypt?
Were there not enough graves that you had to bring us to the wilderness? Right? There were people who did complain. We know that specifically, it says that.
It goes way back, the complaining.
Okay, the complaining didn't start. It's not new.
Right.
Okay, so some people would complain. Okay, how would other people react? How would you react if you were in that spot?
Try to do something.
We're told on Egypt, yes, thank you, coming back to that. We're told on Passover, see yourself as if you were actually there. I'm asking you to put yourself there. So what would you do? What would you react?
Well, try to take action.
Action, what would be the action? Are you gonna run towards the army? Are you gonna run towards the sea? What are you gonna do?
I think run towards the sea.
Run towards the sea, drown yourself. Okay, or have faith that it's gonna split, or arm yourself. Okay, so maybe you would go and fight back. Okay, I'm going down fighting. What do you think?
I think going down fighting.
Going down fighting, so maybe you sound the shofar, call out the troops, set up a perimeter. You would say to go down fighting. Okay, others?
plan A and plan B. So fighting's a good thing and let others pray to God. Look, we just saw a bunch of miracles. We might
Okay.
still think there's an opportunity
Okay,
for another plan.
so according to the Midrash, the Israelites did 4 things. And it's the 4 things that you mentioned. Some went forth to fight against the Egyptians. Some went to basically gave up and drown themselves in the sea. Some went to pray, like Moses. This is Moses is, that's his, we know what Moses is doing because it says he went out to pray. And there's a 4th group who just sit there and be philosophical and they're not sure, they're gonna wait and see. Okay, that's Ivan's group. Okay, so they did all 4 things. Okay, that's what the Midrash says. And then God chides Moses and says, you know, there's a time to extend your prayers. And there's a time to get right to it. Pick up your rod.
We don't read.
Moses,
We don't
lead.
Wait a minute, we don't read Ecclesiastes on Pesach. There's a time for everything.
God says, stop praying.
I know, I'm teasing you.
Lead the people, show them the way, right? And so Moses picks up his rod, and at that point, the rod of God, and at that point, the sea splits, okay? So the Israelites can understand this miracle is coming from God again, like the plagues in Egypt.
But let's put a button here. If Moses hadn't prayed first, and if God hadn't told him to raise his arms, would the sea have split?
Excellent question. So I'm gonna turn the question around and I'm gonna make it a modern question. Okay. On October 7th, a couple of years now, right?
18 months.
Our people was attacked in a very brutal way from Hamas coming out from Gaza. And the people in Israel, okay, the Jewish nation, is divided as to today how to react. Okay, they were, by the way, divided before also, right? But there's major divisions within the nation. And there are some who are saying, okay, now is the time to make peace, now is the time to fight, now is the time to come out, you know, bring out the remaining hostages. There are some who are saying now is the time to attack Iran. And by the way, while you're at it, attack Hezbollah in Lebanon and attack what's left of the Syrian army. You know, there's a new army constituting itself, attack them while they're weak. You know, there's people who are saying now's the time to make peace, you know. There's the Houthis. I hate the Houthis. Just saying, okay, my children, okay, this is Hannah and Xander. They're living literally in a box. It's a shipping container. In Israel, they call them caravans, okay? Apparently lots of young couples start out this way. The caravans were only designed to last, what, 20 years? This is already more than 50 years. This is still being used as housing, right? And instead of being able to go to sleep in their new bed, in their box, what do they do every 4 days? They go into the bomb shelter. Because at 4 a.m., here comes another missile. Most of the missiles get knocked down. But the question is, where is the wreckage of the missiles? Even if they get shot down in the atmosphere, where's it going to land, right? Recently, a half of it landed outside of Hebron, okay? 2 before that landed somewhere in Saudi Arabia. By the way, the Saudis said nothing. Before that, there was one that landed, believe it or not, in Egypt, in the Sinai, okay? The missiles are landing everywhere, the pieces of them, right? They're not like, none of them have hit, thank God, the airport, right? Ben Gurion is still, that's what they're aiming for, right? So I hate the Houthis. And there's people who are just saying, you know what? I'm tired of running to the bomb shelter. If it's my time, I'm staying in my bed. I'm putting in my earplugs. I'm ignoring the red alarm, right? Different people react in different ways. So if we were in Egypt, if we were in Israel today, okay, perhaps, you know, living cheek by jowl by our supposed friends, the Egyptians, who, by the way, were plenty happy letting Hamas rearm, right? Our friends, okay. How would we be celebrating Passover today? Okay, would we be in synagogue praying? Would we be getting called out by the Miluim, by the reservists and fighting? What would we be doing? Anybody want to guess? You were there. How would you be feeling? Bring down this government. Clearly, Netanyahu promised to keep us safe, and he didn't. Take him out, obviously. Like, I mean, what would you be saying?
I'm not understanding the question.
My question is, okay, we're surrounded by miracles all around us,
Mhm.
okay? You could even find miracles within this terrible time in Israel as well. Maybe you could say, well, Rabbi, it's a miracle that none of those missiles have landed. Okay, I'll buy it, right? How would, if we were sitting instead of in Beechwood, Pepper Pike, Ohio, right? If we were sitting in, I don't know, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, how would we be responding? Like, would you be out every Saturday night saying, bring home the hostages? What would you be doing? What would you be saying right now on the 7th day of Pesach?
Bring home the
Figure out a way to
hostages.
Figure out where the hostages are.
Go get them.
Wow.
Go get them,
How
bring them
could they
home, make a
not,
deal
with
for them.
all their intelligence and everything?
Of course they know where they are. Come on. They just know that they can't get them without having them killed. Now they know where they are. Okay.
No,
No, Ivan,
why?
they can't go there because the
They'll get
Hamas
killed.
people are holding them.
Exactly.
So if they get too close,
They-
Hamas will kill
They
them.
already killed 6 of them that way. The Israeli army was in a place called Rafah. It's a southern city. Like the guy with the guy with who had one arm hurt from throwing out the grenades, that guy, he was killed with
Right.
a woman and 4 other men. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, if you got too close,
But you think they know where
they know where they are. Yes, more or less. They keep moving them, but yes.
How else do they know how many are alive and how many?
Right. How do they know that there's 24 of them alive out of 54, however many? Right. You know. Okay. So who else would be saying something different, or what would anybody want to put themselves in that place?
And you would say public,
Okay. What would you say privately in your heart?
privately, I would work on a plan, go from people, and I knew where they were. And
Okay.
I would try to divide the Hamasniks so that you could get a few of them.
Right.
Effect for it.
Right. So maybe say to the Hamasniks, a few of them, bring us out a few of the hostages and we'll give you $5 million and set you up as a prince in, I don't know,
Qatar.
Abu Dhabi. Right. Right. Okay, good. By the way, Israel is trying that tact as well. Anybody else have any thoughts? What would we be doing if we were there?
Praying.
Praying? Maybe we'd be in shul like we are today, maybe studying Torah. Okay. I know what my family there is, Hannah and Xander, they decided, so they have a break from yeshiva. So it's like a vacation, Pesach Zman, they call it. And they went camping, they went hiking. They went to Har Tavor, which is in the north, which is far away from the Houthi missiles, because they got tired of going to the bomb shelter. And they said, we're gonna learn about the flora, the fauna, we'll see this old fortress, we'll learn about, Har Megiddo and Armageddon. They did some camping there. Yeah, it's a real place. Yeah.
Are they gonna be serving?
So anyway, that's what they're doing. Okay, so should we finish with a little bit more? So I'm gonna be on page 405.
Yeah, but it's time.
5 minutes over? All right, so we'll end on this note because I never even got into so much. Okay, 405. Then the Lord said to Moses, hold out your arm over the sea, and the waters may come back down upon the Egyptians and upon their chariots and upon their horsemen. So Moses held his arm up over the sea, and at daybreak, the sea returned to its normal state. The Egyptians fled at its approach, but the Lord hurled the Egyptians into the sea. The waters turned back and covered the chariots and the horsemen. In fact, Pharaoh's entire army that had followed them into the sea, not one of them remained. But the Israelites had marched through the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Thus the Lord delivered Israel that day from the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore of the sea. And when Israel saw the wondrous power which the Lord had wielded against the Egyptians, the people feared the Lord, and they had faith in the Lord, and they had faith in his servant Moses. And that's the beginning. That's the intro to the Song of the Sea. So let's go in. We'll read some Torah together. The Song of the Sea. Hirat Hayam.
Adar.
Thank you.